Let's do this. This is going to be a salvage run. Oh, no, sorry. A deep dive. And then salvage runs. So, stay tight. Watch the gameplay. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think. I'm interested.
A stone that was busily being liberated from Earth's bedrock is estimated to weigh over 16,000 tons. We suspect these huge stones and subsequent efforts in movement and placement were all deliberately motivated to not only show prowess and power, but also to leave a lasting reminder upon our planet, one to indicate their past existence. Footprints on coal, iron, and zinc pots found in or blown from multi-million-year-old strata, many found yet subsequently, quote, lost over the years, are all indications to support our posit here upon our channel. Many questions remain unanswered. It is a journey of discovery which we find highly compelling. While perusing the many perplexing sights we are yet to cover on our channel, we stumbled across something which could quite possibly be a massive clue, evidence left as to the method of construction of many ancient sites found all over Earth. Our channel has, for a long time, put forward the hypothesis that a highly advanced worldwide civilization once flourished here on our planet. We believe that many of the ancient sites, which display unexplained architecture, were left by this lost people, placed far within our distant past. And once one begins to investigate these ruins with this possibility in mind, you start to notice some compelling things regarding these amazing sites. For example, the metal clamps we have previously covered, often created using impressive mixes of alloys and somehow poured molten, could now be seen as earlier architectural examples less than the mortarless, mysteriously notched stonework, also found in similar areas all over the world, with the more precise and thus more impressive stonework seen as a later, more sophisticated method of construction. What's more, although virtually all ancient sites have been dated to the most convenient suspects within known taught history, there also exists the numerous caves and temples hewn from the solid bedrocks, carved with such accuracy and vision, they elude recreation even by our modern-day technology. And while looking at an amazing rock-cut cave within the site of Mamallapuram, India, a site we are now convinced was left by this same civilization, a curious piece of evidence seemingly presented itself. Upon the roughly finished roof of this ancient cave is evidence left by the same technology used to not only cut the astonishingly huge Longyu caves, but also the abandoned Langshan quarry, both in China. This discovery, we believe, is only just the beginning of a realization that these telltale signatures are present at many other unexplained sites around the world. We have long stipulated that many of the ancient ruins claimed by our more modern-day ancestors are most likely not their actual creations. If the structure does date to this more recent age, they are usually found to be sitting upon the telltale remnants of a highly precise ancient foundation originally left by this elusive group. Who were these amazing people? When did they flourish here on Earth? What happened to them? Why did they never record how they created such wonders? Although it is easy for skeptics to argue that the caves and architecture were merely created through excruciating hard labor, any practical demonstration of this has eluded us for many centuries. Furthermore, many of the extensive cave excavations found all over the world, presumably dating back to this bygone age, are all absent any waste, as if the machine tasked with creating these underground labyrinths turned stone to dust. And although the technology and/or possible machinery tasked with the job has evaded modern archaeology to this point, it is clearly another piece of evidence which takes us one step closer to unraveling the true history of our planet. There are a surprising number of historical anomalies which scrutinizes the current, often outdated explanations as to the possible origins of human civilization. Anomalies which suddenly bring the age of countless, inexplicable ancient ruins found all over the globe into question. There exist inner circles of historical specialists who have quietly been battling it out over the authenticity of groundbreaking finds made over the ages, a smoldering cauldron of unavoidable controversies with frequent yet often failed attempts at discreditation. Ancient discoveries, argued over behind closed doors, often within prestigious institutions, each and all with vested interest on the retention of already established paradigms, illusionary or not, with the Glozo affair being of no exception, possibly one of the most explosive discoveries which could be unleashed on the historical academic community. A controversial congregation of artifacts of vastly varying dates would be an understatement. Rows of ancient, technologically advanced oopars, created by groups originating from all corners of the world, some dating back to the Neolithic, with an array of other periods present, all laid undisturbed for untold millennia, a seemingly modern-age historical impossibility. A number of independent investigators continue to entertain the idea that academically funded historians accidentally stumbled upon and subsequently partially exposed to the world a perfectly preserved pre-Atlantis antediluvian museum. One so controversial, if the battles over carbon dating be won by those who support said theory, it would turn our chronological understandings of man upside down. Arguments over the authenticity of the discovery raged on for many decades until the outbreak of the World War in 1939. Multiple lawsuits were launched. 5 international battles were undertaken, all to either prove or disprove the site's authenticity. Yet, it wasn't until 1974 when Glenn Daniel, professor of archaeology at Cambridge University, took another, more significant look at the Glozell Affairs artifacts. Although with the clear intention of proving through carbon and other forensic testing that the true ages would ultimately reveal a fakery. Unfortunately, the complete opposite occurred. What was doubly bad for Daniel regarding these peer-reviewed results was that the finds, one luckily buried by the war, had now been plucked from the archives and back into the forefront in the academic field of discussion, yet now with no way of receiving dismissal. In 2019, another examination and scrutinization of the original tests was undertaken, and they held up. So, at a public symposium on archaeometry at Oxford University, details of further work undertaken by McCarroll of Edinburgh and Maydal, Denmark, claim to show that the age of the ceramics alone is unquestionably great and authentic. This is a site which is undoubtedly incredibly important, and one we will definitely be exploring again in the near future.
Saladin,
We
what
find the
shifted your opinion
Glozal
on the
affair
Cabal?
highly
You don't
compelling.
strike me as someone who
We
likes
have
to
in the
try new
past
things.
covered but a few
I'd
of the
wager
jewels
it's the
that can
same
be
thing
found
that
in the
made you
crown
trust an
of now
outcast
lost
worm.
civilizations
The
which
actions
once
of
dwelled within
individuals,
India.
actions
And
that
since
held
this,
to their
we have
words.
found the possible
There's a
remnants
sense
of a number of
honor,
different flourishments and
kinship,
additional devolutions
common
within the
cause.
granite historical
Others
record of our
remind us
planet.
why we
Proof
fight.
which we can
If
now
we can learn to
confidently
stand
demonstrate
beside
via
them.
a number of antediluvian sites which clearly display this cyclical behavior. The Elora Cave System, for example, one of the most well-finished and thus precisely executed, of which Kalish Temple, a site we have previously covered. Yet I digress. There is no possible way to define how long a religion can survive. As such, the fact that at least 3 different religious influences can be found upon these miraculous, enormous ancient ruins, once hewn directly from the bedrock of Earth, is proof enough of extraordinary antiquity. Along with these 3 different religious ages, our previous research among Elora's cave have ourselves found separate tool marks we feel logically left by a mere 2 separate civilizations, one of the famous cup and spoon mark era, claimed across northern Europe as Neolithic, while the other found upon Kalish and many others throughout India, indicative of yet another world-faring, yet far more globally powerful and capable, now lost civilization. According to
Also
modern
can feel a
paradigm,
horde of coral
quote,
nearby.
the rock cut
It's
activity
been
at
harvested.
Elora Cave,
Draw
3
out whoever
phases
did
from
it,
the 6th
and I'll keep
century to the 12th
reinforcements off your
century.
back.
The earliest caves, 1 through 12, discovered between the 5th and 8th centuries, reflect the Mahayana philosophy of Buddhism then prevalent in this region. The Brahmanical group of caves, 13 through 29, including the renowned Kalish, Cave 16, was excavated between the 7th and 10th centuries. The last phase, caves 30 through 34, reflecting the Jaina philosophy. End quote. However, what we do know for a fact, and quite contradictory to the aforementioned mainstream theory, is that this series of 34 caves were all indeed planned and constructed within the abilities available at the era of each of their constructions. Some indeed more modern, and thusly planned and executed to a more primitive ability. But Kalish and many others along the network are and were incredibly, seemingly impossibly well executed, with unbelievable artistic and complex vision, created with technologies to cut rock of unbelievable and now lost and forgotten technologies, and thus abilities. It is popularly accepted belief systems attached to the sites are of a modern age. However, even this cannot be confirmed. Furthermore, we know that to create such a site would, in the modern age, take unimaginable effort and technology, taking many, many years. Ergo, no matter what the mainstream explanation may be, or indeed the mounting areas of research and the enigmas we continue to stumble upon, adding to our list of areas of interest, all remain a growing and as yet unsolved mystery which we find highly compelling. During our research, we have discovered a number of methods to prove that there have indeed been lost civilizations here upon our planet, along with their once high technologies. One of the most peculiar being polygonal masonry, which, although claimed by some as geopolymer blocks, are made of all sorts of naturally found and subsequently quarried strata. However, what is interesting about this magnificent technique is the visual evidence of more primitive attempts made later, and also its selected use as casing stones, covering sections of far more ancient structures, seemingly used in an attempt to conserve said sites from further erosion. One site of particular interest is that of Aemilia, found within modern-day Italy, which, after part of the ancient wall collapse, has been scanned in depth. Non-invasive techniques, such as ground-penetrating radar, electrical resistive tomography, specifically adapted for this study, laser scanning and digital terrestrial photogrammetry, integrated with other geomatic measures, were utilized and provided by total station and global navigation satellite systems. The results came as a surprise to those investigating the inner stability of the wall, finding 3 separate periods of activity. In other words, at least 3 now lost civilizations had been building the wall prior to the arrival of what is now commonly referred to as the Cyclopean period. According to the official study, quote, "We defined a max wall thickness of about 3.5 meters for the cyclopic sector. We show details of the internal block organization, and we detected low resistivity values, interpretable with high water content behind the basal part of the wall. Could this be residual evidence of a great flood?" They continue. Then, quantitative analysis to assess reliable geotechnical stability was done. The results give rise, for the first time, to internal imaging of these ancient walls, highlighting features associable to different building styles related to different historical periods. End quote. Who were these ancient civilizations? Where did they go? Polygonal techniques are now a lost technology, a smoking gun argument in opposition to modern paradigm, one of a supposed unbroken timeline of continual evolution into our own modern civilization. The study, we feel, has not only proven our own hypothesis regarding multiple lost civilizations, but could also give credence to the theory of the Great Flood. It is a wall, and indeed research discovery, which we find highly compelling.
Your next objective rests at a lower depth, well behind enemy lines. Move carefully. The Empress was impressed to hear of your choice to remain on Titan against the Pyramid, as was I at the time.
Well, sometimes you just have to mark a spot and say that's it. You let that be the only thing that matters. Until it's over.
Until you win. Then you march on. You should meet the Empress. You two would get along. Have your ghosts disrupt those power stations. We'll seize everything here. place is tactical. Dive green. Move out, fire team.
The pressure down here fossilizes the egregore. Looks like blue stone. Harvest what you can, and I'll keep their main guns off your back.
Blade is an invitation.
running this op, and I say weapons free. You know, this guy's pretty resilient. Wouldn't make a bad primeval. We've got some nasties crawling all over the rig. Go shoo them away so we can get to work. Come on down, fellas. We got all sorts of damage that needs repairs. ordnance on deck. Need you to take care of it, hero. Lending a hand down there? Otherwise, we're dead in the water. So it looks like we got ourselves a problem. Gotta get wet to take care of it. Don't drown or nothing. many hands make light work? I don't know. Some of that stuff still looked pretty heavy.
I didn't see you lifting anything.
Hey! Ain't you a tactician? My job's the same. It's logistics.
Logistics.
I might have also been eating lunch. We've got some nasties crawling all over the rig. Go shoo them away so we can get to work. So I got a task perfectly suited for you. Shoot anything that tries to take our stuff. We got some maintenance to do. This old bucket's a few centuries old. I don't know, probably more. Be nice and gentle. ride. Gonna need you to get in there and see what you can do to fix it. Like all our salvaging might have drawn some unwanted attention. Tell them to go mind their own business. Got a big, nasty fella down here. Go give him a tap on the backside for old Drifter.
you ask? Osiris is well. Better than well, actually. I think he found what he was looking for on Neptune.
And what was that, anyway? The city Neomuna?
No, he found a purpose. Learning, teaching, mentoring. What he was always good at, but always walked away from.
Yeah, sounds like a nice run of luck for you two these days. About time.
Greetings, Guardians. My name is Bife here. Okay, so, there's no script for this. I mean, there's a tiny bit of a script while I summarize the cutscene that we got this week. But I think I should preface this by saying that this will be more than one video. This will most definitely be multiple videos following things up. And I think it's fair to also start with some actual summary of what's going on and then to lend a little bit of a voice to everything that has been said by the community at this point. So, first of all, we're going to go ahead and talk about what happened this week, and then I'm going to leave you with some thoughts at the end. If you want the no spoilers version, go ahead and play the weekly quest. It's unbelievably short. You will get to this cutscene in no time at all. With all of that said, the cutscene is as follows, and I'm going to summarize it here as well as having it in the background. The witness, as it turns out, is not an individual person. Before the witness, there was an entire people who, for the moment, I'm going to call the predecessors. The predecessors to the witness discovered the traveler on their world. It allowed them to grow and prosper, and they called it the Gardener. It's clear now that this is where the name within the Unveiling Lore mythology comes from. The Gardener, aka the Traveler, helped them bring about a golden age of prosperity on their world, much like it had with many others. It brought gifts, but not wisdom, though. The really interesting thing is that the cutscene even seems to show that the Traveler was buried in the ground of the world. I'm not sure what that implies, except for the fact that maybe these people were some of the first, or perhaps that the Traveler, due to some circumstances we still haven't learned about, was left on this world buried. Either way, with the abundance of light and life that they had somehow been gifted with, there was still something missing. Purpose. With nothing but revelry and a practical paradise to live in, they looked beyond the meaning and structure. They studied the light and knew that it could create life and growth. They also knew that it could bring about primordial chaos and destruction without meaning, and they saw that as meaningless suffering, and they believed that they needed to control it. Their scholars eventually discovered that the Traveler shared a connection with another cosmic entity in the universe. This entity was the Veil. In the Veil, they discovered the power of the darkness. The Veil's discovery changed the predecessors and showed them the potential for purpose that they craved. Understanding that darkness was a power that could be shaped by thought and consciousness, they realized that it could finally provide them with the means to change the universe that they had so wished for. They believed that they could use the darkness to become the winnower to the Traveler's gardening. They would be able to control the chaos of the light using the power of darkness. They would be able to take light and darkness and shape the universe as they wished. They would control reality. As they resolved to control reality themselves, they believed that they could use these powers to mold reality into a perfect, final shape, without a need for change wrought by chaos, without a need for suffering, without a need for anything whatsoever, but this perfect final shape. They moved to claim the veil, and were successful. They studied it, and they studied the power of darkness, and eventually they brought it back to their homeworld, bringing it close enough to the Traveler that they might link the two entities. This link would allow them to reshape reality to their desires, but the Traveler rejected the link and abandoned them. In pursuit of the final shape and the Traveler, the predecessors resolved to use the power of the darkness to merge, and thus to become the harbinger of the final shape. The being born out of this apotheosis, the collective merging of an entire people's thought and consciousness in the power of darkness, was the Witness. This explains a whole lot. In fact, it explains some of the greatest mysteries in Destiny's story. We now finally understand the origin of the Witness, that it is not an individual but an entire collective consciousness of a whole people, an entire civilization that was spurned by the Traveler in their attempt to control its primordial chaos. We now also know that the Winnower and Gardener are allegories told through the mythology of the Witness's people, allegories representing control and chaos. We also understand now that the Veil and the Traveler are the two original entities as best we can understand. We do not have the original creation behind these two forces of power. We do know that they had to exist before the Witness's people, and as a result we can understand perhaps what is first within the universe. This does, however, throw more questions from old times back into the mix. The mythology of the Winnower and the Gardener created a convenient understanding of the birth of the universe. That understanding is now changed, and it's not clear what's going on anymore. The story of the unveiling may well simply be allegory for the nature in which the Traveler abandoned the people who made up the Witness. Ultimately, there are so many answers here that I can't possibly go over all of them in a single video. Simply explaining the cutscene is one thing, but combining it with everything to do with what we've learned about the Witness's people from Arsa, what we've learned about the Veil from the various logs that have been left behind by Chioma Essie, what we now know about the Traveler and its various communications, all these are topics that I need to talk about and will definitely be talking about for some weeks. But today I wanted to go ahead and use this moment to voice a few thoughts. Does this cutscene answer some questions? Absolutely it does, and I'm glad that we finally have answers to these very important questions. But, and this is most definitely my complaint here, this season of the Deep, was completed and finished and planned before Lightfall was deployed. This was a conscious choice to separate off this particular part of the narrative into a different season and to leave people with questions. I know this is a dead horse and that I'm beating it again, but I cannot in good conscience sit here and make this video and not pretend as though this isn't something which some people are going to be incredibly frustrated by. It's awesome that we have the answers, and you know what? I love the narrative that's being told here. It's got a lot of interesting places that it can go, but there is a really sour taste in my mouth after this one. I can't help but sit here and think that this is one of those moments at which the content itself is great, but the mechanism by which it's being deployed is abysmal. This cutscene, this should have been one of the central pillars of Lightfall. This should have been something that we got as a revelation, maybe halfway through the campaign, maybe in this moment where we were able to link with some powerful artifact found within Callus's possession. Maybe this was a moment at which we interrupted something. Maybe we learned this directly from the Veil itself. No matter what, this should not have been a part of the story of Season of the Deep. This should have been part of the central plot of Lightfall. This created an understanding, not just of what the Veil might be, but also of what the Witness is, and why we should care. It helps us to understand the nature of the final shape, which creates stakes within the story, because now we know that the Witness is attempting to rewrite all of reality. Those are about as big stakes as you can get in Destiny. Rewriting reality is definitely something we want to keep the Witness from doing, and so we have every single reason to then stop the Witness from claiming the Veil. So yeah, you have great stakes that could have been set up there. More importantly, whilst it is one of those things that doesn't fully explain the nature of the Veil, it tells us enough about it to let us know that it is important, that it has been there for a very long time, that it's a primordial and mysterious force in the universe, and that it is linked and similar in a certain sense to the Traveler. In a weird way, the Veil being mysterious works really well if you can explain the whole point here of why the Witness is trying to actually claim it. I would have been okay with the Veil mystery being unveiled at a later date if we'd actually understood these stakes. Now let's be clear, we still don't fully understand this link and what the Witness has done and where the Witness has gone, but we at least now know why the Veil was important, and we understand what the stakes are here. This should have been in Lightfall. You could still have unpacked a ton of those mysteries to do with what the Veil is, where the Witness has gone, how to follow it, in the follow-up seasons. But unfortunately, we are left in this moment with answers that should have been in our laps 4 or 5 months ago. I'm sorry, but this will be a huge lesson, because it is a failure. And I will reiterate for the sake of nuance here, the delivery of the content is the failure, not the content itself. The actual writing that's been done here, the ideas behind everything, how it links into the various mythologies and rumors that we've always half understood about the darkness, the Witness, the Traveler, the Winnower, all of these different ideas. It's excellent. It ties everything together neatly with a bow on top. But whoever decided that this should be something separated out from Lightfall and put into the Season of the Deep should not have made that decision. And I'm really sorry. That is a decision that carries the weight of Lightfall's failure. That is not something that Season of the Deep gets to take credit for. The quality of the story beat that's being told, absolutely. The delivery of that story to us 4 months after the fact, absolutely not. It is a core pillar of why Lightfall's narrative failed, and I think that it would be a dereliction of some duty of mine to sit there and talk about this cutscene without mentioning that. So yeah, that's unbelievably disappointing, and I have to be honest with this. Whilst I'm going to unpack a lot more to do with this cutscene, and whilst I'm going to be going over the revelatory significance of it over the next few weeks, I needed to say this first. This cutscene, or some variation of it, should have been in Lightfall. No ifs, no buts, simply it should have. And I'm sorry if you disagree with me on that, but I don't think that many of you do. If you do agree with me, we're going to go ahead and throw something out here, because this is a teachable moment. If you agree, leave a like on the video, just like we did when it came to the criticism and when it came to the stuff to do with the Veil. Because you know what? This is the second part to that criticism, and leaving a like here hopefully spreads this message. It is not to do with the fact that it is a bad story. It is to do with the fact that it was carved into two, when it realistically should have been served together. You can't make a car by simply creating everything but for the wheels and leaving them next to the unfinished chassis and call it a day. That is kind of what it feels like. We got Lightfall and it felt like a car without wheels. It wasn't going anywhere. We now have the wheels and we understand how everything was supposed to work. But it's too late. We've all been disappointed by that car. So yeah, I'm gonna have to sit here and say that as the main thrust of this video. And it's a shame, because you know what? This should be a day when everyone is utterly blown away, and I'm sure it still is for a lot of us. But I can't not talk about that. This should have been in Lightfall. If you agree, go ahead and hit the like button. I don't think this needs to be rammed home in the same way that a lot of other criticism does, but I think that this is something we need to say as a community loud and clear when it comes to the narrative. So, if you agree, hit the like button, and if you have any thoughts of your own, leave them down below in the comments, and please do be respectful. This is still a moment of feedback, and even though this is a lesson which hopefully should be glaringly obvious to all of the developers, if there's any other critique you have, constructively leave it below. I also want to reiterate that whenever something like this comes up, there are a number of people out there in the community who needlessly harass developers. And to those people, I would like to remind you all to touch some grass and leave. Get off the internet. This is a video game, and yes, it's disappointing, and yes, it is so frustrating when things like these happen. But this is literally my job, and I'm not as angry about this stuff as you guys seem to be. So please, if you're sitting there and thinking of sending an angry, threatening comment to a developer, remember that you exist in the real world too, and that you don't need to be such a pathetic gremlin. Get off the internet. Critique is where we will leave our line. Vitriol is not. So yeah, let's be better. I certainly hope this comes across as something that is more professional and as something that has less of a tone of vitriol than the last video I made back at the beginning of Lightfall. So yeah, all of that being said, I will continue covering Destiny's lore from this season. There's a lot to talk about. First and foremost, we will probably talk about what we've learned from the Veil, especially considering that there are, of course, new things going on in the lore with the Veil questline that is also progressing. And of course, after all that's said and done, we need to talk about the other things I mentioned. The Witness and its people, their history, the truth and realities behind the unveiling lore, and what bits and pieces that we've learned are accurate, and everything to do with, well, the communications of the Traveler and what it knows, and perhaps a little bit more about its intent, something which is made even more clear now that we know what Arsa has told us. There's a lot to unpack from this, and I look forward to doing that. But today's video needs to be about honest feedback. You sit there and say that, hey, you sold us the car, and the wheels arrived 4 months late. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and as per usual, know that your viewership, as always, is quite enough for me. And that in the meantime, my name is Byth. Audacia ad Astra. I'll see you, Starside.
old man doing?
It is kind of you to ask. Osiris is well. Better than well, actually. I think he found what he was looking for on Neptune.
And what was that anyway? The city Neomuna?
No, he found a purpose. Learning, teaching, mentoring. What he was always good at, but always walked away from.
Yeah, sounds like a nice run of luck for you two these days. About time.
Looks like that'll do it for this one. Like, comment, subscribe. Do the do, guys. Help me create something cool here.